let fly a volley of arrows at Saphira. The heat above her was so intense that a handful of the arrows burst into fire in mid-air and crumbled to ash, while the magical wards Eragon had placed around Saphira deflected the rest. One of the stray arrows rebounded off Eragon's shield with a hollow thud, denting it. The plume of flame suddenly enveloped 3 of the soldiers, killing them so quickly they did not even have time to scream. The other soldiers clustered in the center of the inferno, the blades of their spears and pikes reflecting flashes of bright blue light. Try though she might, Saphira could not so much as singe the survivors. At last she abandoned her efforts and closed her jaws with a definitive snap. The fire's absence left the courtyard startlingly quiet. It occurred to Eragon, as it had several times before, that whoever had given the soldiers their wards must have been a skilled and powerful magician. Was it Murtagh? He wondered. If so, why aren't he and Thorn here to defend Bellatona? Doesn't Galbatorix care to keep control of his cities? Eragon ran forward and with a single stroke of Brisinga lopped off the tops of a dozen polearms as easily as he had flicked off the seed heads of barley stalks when he was younger. He slashed the nearest soldier across the chest, slicing through his mail as if it were the flimsiest of cloth. A fountain of blood arose. Then Eragon stabbed the next soldier in line and struck the soldier to his left with his shield, knocking the man into 3 of his companions and bowling them over. The soldiers' reactions seemed slow and clumsy to Eragon as he danced through their ranks, cutting them down with impunity. Saphira waded into the fray to his left, batting the soldiers into the air with her enormous paws, lashing them with her spiked tail and biting and killing them with a shake of her head, while to his right, Arya was a blur of motion, every swing of her sword signalling death for another servant of the Empire. When Eragon spun around to evade a pair of spears, he saw the fur-covered elf Blodgarm close behind, as well as the 11 other elves whose task it was to guard him and Saphira. Farther back, the Varden poured into the courtyard through the gap in the castle's outer wall, but the men refrained from attacking. It was too dangerous to go anywhere near Saphira. Neither she nor Eragon nor the elves required assistance in disposing of the soldiers. The battle soon swept Eragon and Saphira apart, carrying them to opposite ends of the courtyard. Eragon was not concerned. Even without her wards, Saphira was more than capable of defeating a large group of 20 or 30 humans by herself. A spear thudded against Eragon's shield, bruising his shoulder. He whirled toward the thrower, a big, scarred man, missing his lower front teeth, and sprinted at him. The man struggled to draw a dagger from his belt. At the last moment, Eragon twisted, tensed his arms and chest, and rammed his sore shoulder into the man's sternum. The force of the impact drove the soldier backwards several yards, whereupon he collapsed, clutching at his heart. Then a hail of black-fletched arrows fell, killing or injuring many of the soldiers. Eragon shied away from the missiles and covered himself with his shield, even though he was confident his magic would protect him. It would not do to become careless. He never knew when an enemy spellcaster might fire an enchanted arrow that could breach his wards. A bitter smile twisted Eragon's lips. The archers above had realized that their only hope of victory lay in somehow killing Eragon and the elves, no matter how many of their own they had to sacrifice to do so. "You're too late," thought Eragon with grim satisfaction. "You should have left the Empire while you still had the chance." The onslaught of clattering arrows gave him the chance to rest for a moment, which he welcomed. The attack on the city had begun at daybreak, and he and Saphira had been at its forefront the whole while. Once the arrows ceased, Eragon transferred Brisinga to his left hand, picked up one of the soldiers' spears, and heaved it at the archers 40 feet above. As Eragon had discovered, spears were difficult to throw accurately without substantial practice. It did not surprise him then when he missed the man he was aiming for. But he was surprised when he missed the entire line of archers on the battlements. The spear sailed over them and shattered against the castle wall overhead. The archers laughed and jeered, making rude gestures. A swift movement at the periphery of his vision caught Eragon's attention. He looked just in time to see Arya launch her own spear at the archers. It impaled 2 who were standing close together. Then Arya pointed at the men with her sword and said, "Brisinga!" and the spear burst into emerald green fire.